Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another EVE Echoes Player's Guide to EVE Online. That's still a bit of a wordy mouthful, so if you've got a better suggestion for what I could call this series, let me know in the comment section down below. Now, the aim of this series is to introduce you to EVE Online using some of the basic terminology and understanding that you should get from playing EVE Echoes. Now, if you found this video because you're looking for EVE Online tutorials and you haven't played EVE Echoes, don't worry, I will still be trying to explain this in a way that is basic for everyone, but some of the phrases and terms that I will use are referencing EVE Echoes, so I'll try to point that out when it happens, but this video is mainly aimed at folks who've been playing EVE Echoes for a while and I'm looking to try out EVE Online. Now, the tutorials for EVE Online have been getting a lot better over the years. When I first started playing this game, they were pretty much non-existent. And nowadays, if you start as a new character, you go into the agency, you do have your new career agents, and they will teach you all these exciting new ways to play the game. And for the most part, these are pretty good. The Enforcer and the Soldier of Fortune are excellent little lines that will introduce you to combat and how that works. The Industrialist and the Producer and that as well are all pretty good. They will teach you the core mechanics of how this works. For whatever reason though, the exploration one is still really just, it's not there. You get told, oh, go out and explore and scan, and you're like, yeah, but how do I do that? The game never really gives you a tutorial on how this works, and so that's why I'm here today in a Cheetah, which is basically a probe covert ops ship, to explain how scanning, how exploration, how hacking, and how archaeology work in EVE Online. So we're going to jump straight into this one, but if you do want to support the channel, hit like, subscribe for more, and head to Patreon and pledge your support there if you want to keep me doing what I'm doing. Anyway, so here we are out in space. I'm in Galente space now. You may have noticed I'm in Amignon, out in Verge Vendor. This is one of the EVE University campuses. I've basically been flying with these guys to get my feet again in the game and just make sure that everything I say to you guys and showcase is done so in the best way possible. Now, if you are doing that scanning mission, if you've started off with that, you'll probably have something like a Burst or a Bantam, possibly, things like that. I think it's a Navitas and I can never remember the Yamar one. They're basically the logistics frigates that you get sent out in for your first exploration. Later on through that career agent, you will end up with the Probe, the Heron, the Magnate, or the Imicus. Obviously, I've upgraded from that. I'm using the Cheetah here, which is basically an upgraded probe. Anyway, so they tell you to undock and to scan, and that's all they tell you. Now, if you come down here to the left of your HUD, there is one that says Scanners, and you can either just click this and then go left onto Probe Scanner, or you can go Alt-P. You can see the shortcut there of Alt and P will take you through to the Probe Scanner interface. And this is it. It's a lot more complex than we have in EVE Echoes. And basically what you're looking at here is an overview of the star system that you're in, with your position in it, and a load of other information on it. Now, the first thing we want to look for here is the fact that there is a cosmic signature sort of showing up in the local area, but we can also have a look and just scan for other stuff as well. Now, before we do anything, we are going to need to launch our core probe launcher. Now, if you're not aware of this one, you should have been given it as part of the mission. You go into your fitting, and when this opens up here, it'll be a high slot module, core probe launcher, and you will also need to make sure that it is reloaded. I've got Sister's core scanner probes in here. You should have just a load of core scanner probes given to you by the mission agent. So we tap on this, and this will send out a load of these charges into space. There we are, just going to load the 8 in first. I hadn't loaded it. 8 Sisters core scanner probes being loaded back into that probe launcher takes a few moments. Once that's done, we can click it and it'll launch those probes into space. And here in the interface, you can see that we now have this sort of weird bubble effect. Now, to navigate the interface, obviously your mouse just moves you around. If you right click and drag, you move laterally like this, and if you left click and drag, you can rotate. At the bottom of the screen, we also have these two, which you can go to here to top view and then a side view, and this will just give you a straight up idea of how this is all working. Now, on the right-hand side as well, we have different formations here. So we've got, like, currently this is in the pinpoint formation. This is aiming to try and get a site nailed down into place. But if you're looking for something bigger, you might want to click it out into spread formation. If we use the mouse wheel, we can come out and you can see there, that is covering pretty much the entire system. 16 astronomical units being covered. We can also go to some of these other ones here where you can sort of save and do other things. We won't cover that in this video, that's a bit advanced for now. But once we're happy that we've got sort of probes out where we want them, we can hit Analyze. Now here you'll see that the probes actually travel to their positions from where I am. They all fly out to where they need to be. And then once they're in position, they all start to scan. And there's the scanning going on. You can see it building up here, this bar going over. You get a nice little graphic here as well. And it'll showcase if there is anything at all in this system. Now all I can really see here is a cosmic signature. So we're going to have a look at this and we're going to pinpoint in. So we're going to change back now to the launch pinpoint formation. And by first of all going to the top view, we're going to drag this, by using the arrows, straight onto that in as close to top as we can go. Someone's just bumped me, or I've hit a warp to. Of course we have. Anyway, we're then going to click on a side view, and again we're going to make sure that laterally we are covered there, and we can use the left mouse to rotate and try and make sure that that is covering this to the best of our ability. I just want to check where I actually am here. I've been warped to the sun for some reason. I must have clicked that accidentally. Oh well, we should be fairly safe. Watch as I lose my ship as I've now said that. So here we are. We can have a look at the top view and the side view and sort of rotate it and see if we are predominantly with that in the center. And I'm just going to scan here. I wouldn't normally scan this widely over an area like this. And you see all the probes move back into positions so they're at the center of each of these spheres. We then scan, those probes scan that sphere effect around them, and obviously the more that are overlapping, you can see we've gone from 7% up to 48.7%. It's still orange, it's still not enough for me to get to, but it's a wormhole. That's pretty exciting to see. So we're going to have a look now. It's somewhere, we can see if we zoom in, around about this area, but our probes are scanning in huge radius spheres around them. Well, that's where we can drag things down here. Now I'm going to zoom that right into 1 astronomical unit, and I'm going to do basically the same as before. I'm going to go top view, and I'm going to drag over to where that wormhole marker possibly is. It's not necessarily in this position, it's just that's a region that my drones, my little probes, sorry, seemed to suggest it might be. So we're just going to try that. We're going to analyze again. So those probes are going to move into position quickly. They are then going to scan, and you see the scan timing going up here. Currently at 48%, we want to get this as high as possible until it goes green. There we are, it is now green. Now you can actually use shift as well. If you hold the shift key, you can manually move every single probe in your interface. Again, that's a bit more advanced than perhaps we need to go into here, but if you absolutely are not quite getting that point, you can stack them all on top of each other, so that by having all 8 of your probes basically all stacked on top of each other like this, you get a vague idea that everything is, everything's scanning into that one bit, and you can really try and pinpoint it a bit more from there. And ultimately, if I were to scan that again now, you'll see that they're going to move into position, they're going to scan. We've already got the wormhole, but, the point is just for purposes of demonstration here. Now, I'm not going to talk about wormholes too much in this, that's an entire video on its own, but you can see we've got this now to a point where we can warp to it. We can right-click on this and warp to within. I like to warp to within about 20 Ks. I get a nice view of things as we do so. Here we go. We're going to warp through the star. Apparently, whoop, off we go towards this wormhole. I could theoretically also pop my my cloak just in case there's anyone there, but I should have scanned them if they were. And there's our wormhole. Now, wormholes, as I said, I'm not going to go too much into these. There are multiple different types of wormholes. Some of these, you fly through a wormhole and you come out into another region of space. So, like, you jump in and you're in Verge Vendor, and then suddenly you come out and you're in Heimatar or some other opposite end of the galaxy. That means they can be very useful for traveling quickly to and from places. And so you might want to let your alliance know that, oh, we've got a wormholing system here that takes us through to here. So if anyone in your alliance or corporation is looking to get to that other place, you can use it as a shortcut. If you were to open up your map and look at, for example, you find a wormhole in Delve. You're in Delve with your alliance, you find a wormhole, and it takes you straight through to, say, Vale of the Silent. That's somewhere that's going to be like 50 jumps away as standard, and that could cut off literally 45, 50 jumps of wherever it is you're going to. Now, the other thing that wormholes sometimes are is their actual own little pockets. Like, you go into a wormhole and there's like mining fields and enemies and stuff like that, and they can actually be pretty scary and dangerous. I am going to risk it for a biscuit on this one, so we're going to zoom in. I'm going to need to clear off the cloak because I won't be able to warp into it whilst cloaked. Here we are, approach. And if we approach that all the way into 0, we should jump through this wormhole and find out what is actually in it. There we go, we're going to enter wormhole. Sorry, I couldn't find the actual thing on there. Enter wormhole, and through we go. Now, this particular wormhole, what do we have? Oh, we have a J-space wormhole. These are the scary ones that I was talking about. When we come in here, you see there is nothing immediately available to me. Like, my overview is showing nothing. I would need to scan this down and find out what other sites are available inside this wormhole. There could be some cosmic signatures. Looks like there are a couple around that I could scan down. Let's have a look. Let's just open up the scanning interface with Alt-P. Yeah, there we are. So we've got a load of these, like perimeter checkpoints, ruins, sleeper data sites. These are all scanning sites. There's some combat sites in there as well. This is a pretty scary place to be as a lone explorer in a completely non-combat vessel. So I'm just going to enter wormhole again and get out of here before anything happens, because it's entirely possible I could come across other players here as well. It is a -1.0 complete nullsec, absolute null. Security status there. Concord can do nothing to help me. I don't really want to lose this ship in the middle of a video, so there we are. I found a wormhole. I've showed how this works. Now, some of the other things you might find, you could, for example, find that other than a wormhole, you find cosmic anomalies, which are direct combat sites, basically the ratting sites that we have in EVE Online, but more lucrative ones of them. You can fly into those with then a combat ship, you know, fly in with your probe or whatever, bookmark it, and then come back with a thrasher or a cruiser, you know, destroyer, a cruiser, or a battle cruiser or something, and clear that out. You could also find various mining belts, gas clouds, hacking sites, data sites, relic sites, that kind of thing. And there is a whole mini game involved in those as well, which I kind of want to not cover in this video. That's something I'll do in a separate video, because I think it's a lot of fun to actually try it and see if you can figure it out yourself directly. So, now that I'm back at station here, I am going to dock up, and then we're going to have a look at some of the skills, etc., that are going to affect like your scanning and exploration. So as I'm being towed into station here, let's go into the skill panel. Now, I haven't fully trained up these. One of the problems that we have for me wanting to create content here for EVE Online is that I want to do everything. I am flying assault frigates, I'm flying interceptors, I'm doing scanning and exploration, I'm currently training into the Silent Rose battle hurricane, battle cruiser, Minotaur battle cruiser, and stuff like this. So I'm spending a lot of skill points all over the place. And if exploration is one that you end up looking at, then you're going to be coming into the skill tree and looking at the scanning window here. Now, scanning comes up with these particular skills that you see here, and the first ones we're going to look at are astrometrics. Astrometrics is probably your most important skill as a scanner, and if you look at it here, you can see skill operating long-range scanners, a 5% increase to scan strength per level, and a 5% reduction to maximum scan deviation per level, and a 5% reduction to scan probe scan time per level. So this means basically when you put your probes into space and you click scan, they scan stronger. It means they're able to pinpoint things better. The higher your scan strength, the more accurate your return results are. The reduction to scan deviation is where you saw that I was scanning on a little red X, and then the orange mark for the wormhole jumped off to the side, and then the green mark sort of was somewhere else completely. That means you're basically trying to find that green mark, and the game is saying, oh, it could be somewhere near this X mark, it's somewhere near this orange mark, and you're trying to get in there. That's your deviation, and that will help you out with that. Under astrometrics, we then have astrometric acquisition. This is a 5% reduction in scan probe scan time per level, so your probes scan faster. We have astrometric pinpointing. This reduces the maximum scan deviation by 5% per level. Range finding gives a 5% increase to scan probe strength per level, so you can kind of see all of those going to be useful for your probes. Once you're in sites, again, we have relic sites and we have data sites. Relic sites are where you would use archaeology. Here you go in with a relic analyzer and you play a little mini game where it's kind of a cross between Minesweeper and I think the power plant, like energy puzzle from Resident Evil 3, where essentially you click on a node and you're told that the actual node you need is within 1, 2, 3, 4, however many nodes away, and then you click on another node and it'll tell you how close you are again, if you've gone further away or if you're closer, and you try to narrow yourself down to that point as quickly as possible. Now here, ultimately, you can see here we get 10 additional virus coherence per level. This just helps you do that mini game a lot easier. And it's the same with hacking, but hacking is done on data sites. So you might decide that actually you only care about your data sites, so you only need hacking, or you might decide that you only care about relic sites, so you only need archaeology. Or, like me, you decide you want to do everything, so you kind of train into both. Now, again, this is one of those things. You can go into the ship tree. We can't, that's the fitting tree. Wrong thing. We can go into the ship tree here. I still get confused by these menus, and we can have a look at your ships and the masteries and things that they would use there. Now, the first dedicated scanning ships that you're going to find are in your ship tree under frigates, coming all the way up to where it says covert ops. You will have a stealth bomber, obviously like the Hound, the Nemesis, the Manticore, and the Purifier, depending on which of the empires you're playing as, and then the covert ops. Now, this isn't just the probe covert ops, it's the cheetah. It's not the heron covert ops, it's the buzzard. It's not the magnate covert ops, it's the, click across to the MR tree and quickly say it before I forget, the anathema. And for the Glente one, instead of the Imicus, it is the Helios, which are really cool names, and they do actually have slightly unique hulls. Like, if you're familiar with the hull of the probe, for example, you'll notice that the cheetah is significantly different. We've got these sort of panes here on the side, on this side, and on this side again, we've got these large, people call them solar panels. They're not. According to the Frigates of EVE Online book, most of these panels that you see on Minmatar ships are actually things like radar sensor arrays and all that kind of thing. And if we compare that down here to the actual probe, which is the one you get to start with, you'll see that this one, it's just a flat pane on one side and no panes on this side at all. So there is a bit of a difference here visually as well between these two ships, which I quite like. It's unique. I miss that in EVE Echoes. Anyway, so again, with an idea here, you can look into each of these, into the mastery, and see what kind of skills you should probably be training into. Here, armor tanking, obviously not a big one for me here. Core spaceship operation obviously has a lot of those skills that we talked about in the Magic 14. Radar target management, this is probably a useful one to look into. What am I missing? Radar sensor compensation. Ah, yes, I haven't even gone into those particular skills. Things like signature analysis and target management, which do help scanning. Surprise, surprise. And this will give you an idea of all these different skills that you can train into, and you can mouse over them and learn what those do. But yes, that's a very good point. We've had a look at scanning, we haven't had a look at targeting. Now, targeting, we have of course got things like target management, which allows you to lock onto multiple targets. Not a huge thing as an exploration pilot, obviously, but it does hook into some of the other skills and allow you to train them as well. And if you're going to be going for like a combat scanner, like a a Fleet Scout, these are still useful skills to have, especially since you can technically tackle with a probe. Like, it's not common, but it happens enough. Then we have things like, yes, radar sensor compensation. This is like to do with the type of scanners on your ship. So here, for example, radar sensor strength, you can see that this is used against hostile electronic countermeasure modifiers, and it's a 4% improved radar sensor strength per level, and we get radar as well here on this side. The radar tends to be used mainly by Amar, Blood Raider, and Sancha. The radar sensor tends to be used by Minmatar and Angel ships. We have gravimetric, which is used by Caldari, Gurustas, and Mordu's Legion, and magnetometric, which is used by Galente, Serpentis, Or, and Sisters of Eve. These are not necessarily useful skills if you're just going into exploration, scanning, hacking, that kind of thing, but it's worth knowing about them and what it is that they do. But these are the ones that you're going to focus on here in the scanning menu. And hopefully that's given you a brief idea of how things can work here with scanning. It is worth noting that unlike Eve Echoes, probe launchers are high slot modules. These are not mid slots, these are high slots. You're going to need to remember to reload them when you're out in combat, when you're out in space, which I forgot to do at the start of this video, as you saw, so you saw how to do that. Right click and reload it. And it's the same when it comes to covert ops cloaking devices. These are high slot modules. Believe it or not, they're high slot modules. The analyzers are still mid slots, but the cloak is now a high slot. And cloaks as well do require some training into certain skills. That's not the cloak, that's the probe launcher. Let's go into there. There we are. You're going to need to have cloaking all the way up to 4 and CPU management all the way up to 4 as well in order to equip that. And cloaking, well, if we go into the skill tree there, we can type in cloaking here at the top, and it'll bring us straight through to it, because I don't actually remember which one it's in. It's in electronic systems. There we are. So cloaking there is a skill at using cloaking devices, 10% reduction in targeting delay after uncloaking per skill level. It's not really the whole cloak and uncloak thing. We don't care about that targeting delay all that much if we're just looking at relic and data sites and things like that, ghost sites and sleeper sites. Not so much sleeper sites, but hey, we'll talk about those in a future video. Ultimately, we are looking at electronic systems, cloaking. We want that to 4 so that we can get the full ability to use covert ops cloaking devices on our ship. Those, obviously, you know how these work. They allow you to warp whilst cloaked. It means you can sit and you can scan nice and easily. Launch your probes, then put your cloak on, and you can sit there and scan and move your probes without worrying about someone attacking you or scanning you down because you're cloaked. That's why the exploration frigates here are all like designed around the idea of cloaking. It's why on the ship tree they appear under the covert ops branch here, halfway up alongside the stealth bomber from that faction. Anyway, hopefully that gives you an idea of what's going on with scanning and exploration. I will do a more advanced version of this where we talk about the different sites, the hacking minigame, some tips and tricks for that, and possibly even, if I've trained into one at the time, something like the Tengu, which is a very popular exploration vessel. We'll talk about some of the other types of ships that you can use. For the time being, go for whichever one sort of fits your particular empire. So that will mainly be the Probe, the Heron, the Immicus, and the Magnate. Those are going to be your 4 main scanning ships that you use for exploration, but you can then go up to the relevant Covert Ops variant as well if you want to put the skill points into something like that. If you are a little bit unsure, like you haven't got any skills in anything, I would argue the best one to go for to start with is probably the Heron and the Buzzard on the Caldari tree, because those skills in Caldari Frigate then move into Caldari Destroyer and into Caldari Cruiser, and as I said, the Tengu is probably one of the most popular of the scanning ships in EVE. Anyway, folks, let me know how you get on with this one. Hope it helps. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden!